What's going on, everybody? David here. Today we're talking about the difference between Parque Lleras and La Setenta. But first off, on this channel we talk about travel, exploration, and photography. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to hit the little bell icon so you can get future updates on my videos. All right, so I want to talk about the differences between these two areas of Medellin. So El Poblado is where you have Parque Lleras. And then you have Laureles, and that's where you have La Setenta. They're both places, nightlife, bars, restaurants, so they all have that. But what are the differences? So I've stayed in El Poblado. I've gone to Parque Lleras the first time that I was here. And now I'm on my second trip in Medellin. I'm actually here right now in Laureles and on La Setenta. And so I kind of have a good idea of the two, and I'll tell you at the end my overall opinion, what I think is the best for me. So let's talk about El Poblado first. So in El Poblado, it's a lot busier. Okay, so the city's a lot more. There's a lot of stuff going on in that part of the city. And then you have the Parque Lleras area where you have the park and you have all the clubs and the nightlife. Their clubs in Parque Lleras are a little more upscale. So you're going to have some real nice clubs. Not too many like storefront clubs. And I'll talk about that when we talk more about La Setenta. But you'll have more of like the traditional club where you have the bouncer at the front. He pats you down, you pay, and then you go up into the club. So that's kind of the way the setup is in El Poblado, okay? Now, you have a lot of tourists in El Poblado, a lot. So when you go to a club, the vast majority of the club will be tourists. So just be aware of that. A lot of the clubs you go into, it's going to be all Americans and Europeans and all that. Now, if you go to Laureles and you go to La Setenta, it's going to be a lot more locals, okay? So the clubs, you're going to have a lot of local people in the club having a good time. You will have tourists there as well, but you're not going to have as many. So like some of the clubs that I went to in La Setenta, like you look around and you can kind of tell, and you just hear the talk and people talking and stuff like that. You can kind of say, okay, yeah, this is probably more of a local vibe. Whereas I went to some clubs in El Poblado and Parque Lleras, and everyone's speaking English. And so it's just kind of crazy like that. My personal preference, though, out of the two areas, I like La Setenta. I like La Setenta for a few different reasons. The first reason is it's more affordable. If you're staying in an Airbnb or even a hotel in La Setenta in that area, you're going to pay a lot less than if you're in El Poblado. Just for example, I'm in an Airbnb right here in Laureles. This Airbnb is $29 a night. I was in an Airbnb in El Poblado. It was $100 a night. So that just kind of gives you an idea of the price difference. Now, if it's your first time in Medellin, you probably want to stay in El Poblado. And I've said this in other videos because El Poblado has pretty much everything within walking distance. Laureles does too, but Parque Lleras even more so. You have some of the clubs that you might want to go to, like the Sky Bar, I think it's called, and Gustos, and some of these other clubs that you might want to go to, might be interesting going to. They're all in Parque Lleras. You don't have like real popular clubs. Like when I say popular, I mean like if you were to look up Medellin, travel to Medellin, or vacation to Medellin, nightlife, then you're probably going to see a lot of clubs from that are in Parque Lleras. You might not see that many that are in Laureles. So, but the clubs are equally, I mean, I would say El Poblado, the clubs are a little higher end, but Laureles has some really, really good clubs as well. So I like I said, the price, it's more my price range, $29 a night as opposed to paying $100 a night. And of course, when we stayed in El Poblado, I stayed with a buddy, so we had a 2-bedroom. I'm now staying in, this is a 1-bedroom. So that's going to be cheaper as well. So if you need to get a 2-bedroom in La Setenta area, you probably will pay a little bit more, but I'd say $50 to $60 is probably where you'll be. You're still not going to hit that 100 or 130. So that's good. Now, another thing I like about Laureles is I talked about a little bit locals. You have a lot of locals here. Okay, so you can get to know the locals, like the kind of the local culture and all that. You also have some pretty good restaurants, pretty nice restaurants. You have nice restaurants in both places, but you have restaurants that they're probably more affordable than some of the restaurants in in El Poblado. Okay, and like I said, I've stayed in both and I paid in both. I will tell you the clubs are a lot more reasonable in Laureles and La Setenta as opposed to El Poblado. For drinks and a variety of different things. You pay for a drink in El Poblado and some of those clubs, and you're paying $7 or $8 for a drink, which is crazy considering that you can get a full-on meal for $4.50 or for $5. They want to charge you $7 or $8 for a drink. So that's in El Poblado. That does happen. And when I was in El Poblado and went to a few of the clubs, that's what they were charging. Now, in La Setenta, drinks are a little more reasonable. As well as they have, it's funny because I talked about kind of the storefront clubs. So you'll have these clubs that it was just a restaurant, like a kind of a storefront where you can look in, you can see everything that's going on. It's like an open area where they have the seating outside, then you have the seating inside, but everything is open. It doesn't close up. So you'll have areas like that that will just take out all the tables, and then there's your club right there. And so you'll have those all around. And as well as you'll have liquor stores, like kind of like a storefront liquor store where you can't go into the store. It's just there. It's like behind the counter. So you walk right up to the counter and you can get whatever you want to drink. And then a lot of the places will have these little seats right out front. So you can buy a drink and then just sit right there and have your drink. And they're a lot more reasonable when you purchase drinks there. So there are a lot of different things that Laureles offers that I didn't see in El Poblado. But El Poblado is a little higher end when it comes to the restaurants and the clubs. And they're let me just put it this way. They're very similar, okay? But when it comes down to it, your money will go further if you're in Laureles, and you'll probably have a very similar experience if you're in Laureles as opposed to staying in the Parque Lleras, El Poblado area. So I'd love to know what you guys do. When you guys come to Colombia, Medellin, where do you stay? Do you stay in Laureles? Do you stay in El Poblado? Or do you stay in Envigado? Where do you stay? Please post in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.